Dakota Johnson admits she can't forget Jamie Dornan. Dakota Johnson woke up in the middle of the night, her eyes wide open, her chest pounding. The sky outside the window was painted in the dark blue of the night. Occasionally moonlight seeped through the gaps in the curtains, leaving faint streaks of light on the cold wooden floor. She could still clearly hear the murmur of memories, voices, footsteps, smiles, all swirling like an endless vortex. She turned over on the white pillow, hugging the thin blanket tightly. It wasn't the first time she had been woken up like this. Sleep often came late, dreams or the figure of a man, Jamie Dornan. He always appeared, sometimes with gentle eyes, sometimes with a gentle smile, sometimes with wordless longing. Perhaps she had never admitted it to anyone, but in her heart, this feeling had existed since the relationship between them quietly ended. Behind the lights, Dakota remembered clearly the first time she met Jamie, at a small charity event, soft stage lighting, flashing cameras, cheers from the audience behind the curtains. She was invited to present an award. Jamie was one of the honorees. They caught each other as Dakota stepped onto the podium, her eyes accidentally looking at him, where the crowd floated, then caught by Jamie's gaze, a sudden connection, like two rays of light meeting in midair. She remembered the awkward feeling, the multiple heartbeats, the light touch as they shook hands in congratulations, the hesitant smile, then Jamie's eyes following her as she walked off the stage. And from that moment, Dakota knew, something had begun that she couldn't name. Sometime after that, they collaborated on a big movie. On set, Dakota saw Jamie as more than an actor, but a friend, gentle, quiet, but when he smiled, his eyes lit up as if his soul spoke without words. They practiced lines together, read scripts together, studied characters together. There were evenings, after the lights went out, they sat together, talked about family, about music, about how lost they felt living in the spotlight. Jamie talked about growing up in Northern Ireland, about his mother, about places he had never forgotten, sunsets on the beach, the sound of wind through old oak trees. Dakota talked about her childhood in California, about her mother's house, about summer days with the scent of lavender. They shared intimate things that few people knew, as if they had found a place to rest their souls. 2. Sweet and painful feelings. As they were about to wrap, one day Dakota and Jamie were the only two left on set. Everyone had gone. The sunset glowed outside the glass windows, the light tinting the walls pink. Jamie stood close to her, whispering, "I don't want it to end like this." Dakota looked at him, hesitant. She felt the warmth of his breath, the faint scent of his perfume. Her heart felt like it was trying to escape her chest. "Me too," she answered, her voice small and trembling. "But we can't keep things forever." Jamie looked at her in silence. Then he took her hand. That touch, soft but full of meaning, said more than any words. Dakota knew, maybe they loved each other, in a way they hadn't defined, in a way they were both afraid to hurt if they named it. The day of their separation finally came, the morning Jamie had to leave the city for a new schedule. It was foggy, and she arrived at the airport, a vast emptiness in her heart. They hugged, each kissing the other's hair, as if this moment were their last. Dakota felt her eyes water, as if her heart had been ripped out of her chest, leaving a wound that could never be mended. 3. After the quiet days, after finishing filming, Dakota returned to Los Angeles. Weeks passed, busy with new projects, press conferences, advertising. But in every smile she plastered on her face, in every flash, sometimes she saw Jamie, the way he looked at her, the way he held her hand that last day, his breath when he said goodbye. She tried to forget, tried to fill her space with work, with flights, with dinners with friends, but every time she closed her eyes, Jamie's image still appeared. One day she went to help at a children's refugee camp. A boy asked her, "Do you remember the person you loved the most?" Dakota looked into those small, pretty eyes, and her heart broke. She wanted to say, no, wanted to tell the truth that the longing had cooled, but her mouth said otherwise. Yes, I still miss. Her heart ached, because missing is not always sweet. It is a sharp knife, cutting into her chest, making her feel like she is still a weak woman before a memory that she cannot dispel. An admittance. Driving home that night, she opened the car window, letting the autumn wind blow through her hair. Street lights passed by, tree shadows stretched across the road. She turned on the radio, a soft song, an unfamiliar melody, but the lyrics resonated. I just want to forget you, but you still live in my heart. She felt her heart vibrate with every note. She realized, after all the acting, after the halo, after the smiles in public, she had never said to anyone, I can't forget Jamie Dornan. She wondered, if there was a chance, if Jamie heard these words, what would he think? Would he miss her too? Or had he gone further, forgotten her like she hoped she could? She didn't know. But in that dark moment, in the car, amidst the music, the wind and the darkness, Dakota admitted to herself, she couldn't forget. She didn't want to forget. And maybe, she shouldn't. See you again. One May afternoon, the sky was clear, the royal poinciana flowers were bright red on both sides of the road. Dakota was taking photos for an outdoor advertising campaign, in a small park. She wore a light white dress, her hair was loose, the sunlight made her skin glow with a warm color. She heard someone calling her name. She looked up, Jamie was standing there, far away, under the shade of a purple Lagastroemia tree. His eyes were a little surprised to see her, then he smiled, the smile Dakota still remembered clearly. She felt cold, her heart was beating strangely. She tried to smile back, her eyes a little confused. Dakota, he said, his voice low but warm. She moved closer. Jamie. In that moment the world seemed to stop spinning. The wind blew through the scattered leaves, the sunlight filtered through the branches, creating faint shadows on the ground. Dakota looked at Jamie. His hair was neatly cut, his eyes were still deep, his skin was still smooth in the golden sunlight. I don't know if you remember me, she said. Jamie looked at her in silence for a moment. Of course I do, he answered, his voice low. I've thought about you a lot. Dakota felt tears well up in her eyes. She wanted to say what she had kept hidden for so long. You know, she swallowed, I can't forget you. Jamie was silent for a moment, then gently placed his hand on her shoulder. You're still special to me, he said. Even though time has passed, even though we've gone our separate ways, Vi. Allow yourself to remember. After that meeting, Dakota and Jamie didn't go back to the way they were before, they didn't continue a romance, didn't promise anything big. But they found a way to talk, to share, to remember without pain. They texted to check in, sometimes sent small greetings when they learned each other had new projects, sometimes met for a short lunch, under the soft sunlight, under the green of the trees. It felt like two old friends, two people who had a lot, but now still wanted to preserve the best things. Dakota realized that, not forgetting, did not mean being caught up in pain. Sometimes remembering was a comfort, a soft lullaby in the night, a sweet memory of someone's eyes, a sparkling laugh in the darkness. It made her realize that she had lived her life to the fullest, had loved truly, had given without regret. She learned to give memories their own place in her heart, not a place that took over every thought, but a quiet corner where she could close the door and open it when needed. And whenever she missed Jamie, she did not avoid it, she gave that memory a gentle hug, then moved on.